Welcome to the Monsters of the Gridiron podcast.
What's going on, guys? We got Big Samo in the building, Walt, and we're joined by special guest Ian Cummings, NFL draft analyst for it's Pro Football Network, correct?
Yep.
Killing it out there. He does a podcast as well. I've watched a lot of his NFL draft talk, and we have some Bears news today as well, as Caleb is officially signed, and Romo Dunze as well. But what's up, guys? Ian, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, man. It's been fun to kind of follow the Bears draft in particular because, I mean, that first round duo, man, there aren't too many more exciting rookie hauls than that. And then they got a few nice value deals later on. So I just finished, you guys are the first hearing about this, I just finished my first 7-rounder of the 2025 cycle. So that'll be released on PFN at the end of this week. But the Bears got some interesting additions there too. So a good early look ahead to that cycle. Already a lot of prospects on tap. But I'm happy to be back with you guys talking Bears.
Can we get one spoiler from that? No name, but can you tell me if we at least got a defensive end? Because I think that's what we all want.
I used the first round pick on an edge rusher. Yeah, I think you guys are happy to hear that. But yeah, I couldn't skimp on that, man. I couldn't. As much as I like Austin Booker and the potential, you need a blue chip guy. I think next year's class is a lot to offer. It's going to be a very strong edge class.
Same. I've been working on my early edge rankings already, starting my top 10. It's a talented class, and I think it matches up well. We have 3 picks that could be in the top 50 next year, depending on where our second rounder and that Panthers pick fall. But one of those has got to be an edge rusher for sure. Samo, how's it going, man?
Good, man. Good. I just did complete a top 10 ranking for edge rushers as well. You guys are everyone's jumping on it early. We all know we need that edge rusher. The question for Ian, though, is how far back were the Bears when they actually did pick? You know, because that's going to be telling, because we'll know what where you guys think we're going to land this.
I knew this was coming.
I
knew this was coming. So I do want to preface this right now. For the early mocks, the very early ones, I haven't done my season prediction yet, right? So I'm gonna take some time to do an actual legit season prediction, like week by week. Who do I think is winning? Who do I think is losing? And then I'll go off of that for my mock draft order for the August mock, right? But right now, I've just been using the Vegas odds. So if anyone is upset, if you think the Bears should be picking 32, it's not me. I'm just using the Vegas odds because I've got enough to focus on with the picks. I think through each one for 7 rounds. So it's like, I gotta delegate my time, right? But the Vegas odds have them at 18th, I think, which is not bad. You know, I think first year for Caleb, if you're on the fringe there, that's good. I think they can make the playoffs. I do think they can. I think the defense is already one of the better ones in the league, and then you got Caleb Williams, Romo Dunze, Keenan Allen as well with DJ Moore. I think all the pieces are in place for them to compete. It's just the NFC North is going to be a really tough division. The NFC is going to be a little tough too. So I think the Bears have the firepower for sure, and they're right on the cusp. If I did my season prediction, I could definitely see them being in that 18 to 22 range.
Ooh, I like that. That's exactly where I think I see us at too.
Absolutely.
Say?
Go ahead, Walt. I thought you were going to say something.
No, you were about to say something, man.
No, I'm just going to say absolutely. I definitely agree. Definitely agree there. I just feel like we have to stay healthy, man. I think that's been our Achilles heel for the past few years. We start the season injured. You know, last year the offensive line didn't get together probably until like the 4th or 5th game where we had our starting offensive line. Then right after that, you got another guy going down. So I think health plays a big part in it. So I think we are a floor of 9 games and, you know, ceiling of maybe 12 to 13. So if everything goes perfect, that means Caleb hits the ground running. That means the chemistry between him and the wide receivers are great. The defense is that top 5 defense, picking up right where it left off last year. So everything has to go well for something like that to happen. And, you know, this is the Bears and this is the NFL. Rarely do we see everything go well. So Temper our
I think
expectations.
At the very least, you got the quarterback, I think. Caleb
Mhm.
Williams, plenty of reason to be excited. I don't think, and he has all of the supporting elements that needs to be successful, right? So I think at least if you're a Chicago fan, you can be excited about that because the QB history hasn't been great. I think it's going to get a lot better with Caleb.
Shoot, and Rome Odunze too. Our wide receiver history hasn't been that great as well, but Rome is a stud, and he matches up with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. So that's too much to get excited about there, to be honest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, should we go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off for Ian right now, man? Because I know that Bears fans watching this right now hear that Ian is from PFF, and they are remembering an article that came out a few weeks ago in regards to the Bears secondary. And Ian, I know that you didn't write this article, but you'll probably have to defend this for your colleagues. Is the Bears secondary being ranked 19th in the NFL after leading the league in interceptions last year? How does make it make sense for us somehow?
Quick clarification question: was this PFF or PFN? Because I love the guys at PFF. Trevor Sickma was over there, great guy. And I have no qualm, but PFN. I'm for PFN.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Great clarification. Great to clarifying that for us. Yeah.
But
well, what do you think of that? What do you think of that ranking? Then, since I'm glad. I know you don't have to defend it, but you can give us your opinion of that ranking. Then.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm trying to like ballpark it in my head right now, which is a tough exercise because there's a lot of good secondaries out there. But Tyreek Stevenson, I liked him a lot as a prospect, and he ended up showing out down the stretch for the Bears. I have a lot of confidence and excitement for what he can do in the years to come. They got Kyler Gordon at the nickel spot, I believe, which he's kind of coming into his own as well. His short area agility, fluidity were both really strong points as a prospect. So to see him become that player, and then Jalen Johnson, I mean is it Jalen? Yeah, it's Johnson. There's so many Jalen's, man. I get confused. There's like Jalen Jones last cycle. So Jalen Johnson he earned that money. And then they got Jaquan Brisker at strong safety, Kevin Byard as that short-term fix, a free safety, which I think Byard, if he can get back to the way he was playing a couple of years ago, right? Like in his peak, he was one of the best free safeties in the league. So if he can get back to that point, then you could have a potentially elite secondary, top 10 in the NFL. I think that's the biggest hang up for me because Jaquan Brisker is a great strong safety. I think he's versatile. He can do a lot of different things. That corner trio is one of the best in the NFL. So the big hang up for me is, what Kevin Byard do we get, right? With the Eagles was a little rocky, a little bit more up and down, which I mean, some guys hit the cliff. It just happens. But, safeties in the right supporting cats in the right situation, they can go beyond that. They can transcend that. So I'm excited to see how he can fit in. But that's really the only question mark for me. The corner trio is great. Jaquan Brisker is great. I would probably have them in my top 12, top 13, just kind of ballparking it. I think of the secondaries in the NFC North, I think they have a legitimate claim to be the best one. I think the Lions, after getting Terry and Arnold, are up there for sure. They got Arnold. They got Brian Branch as well. Fatu Malafanu really came into his own. He's more of a versatile slashing strong safety, but Kirby Joseph is very good too. I think the Packers did everything they needed to do, but they have some long-term durability questions at corner. And then the Vikings have a few questions as well. So I like all of those secondaries, but to me, the Bears, probably the best one in the NFC North and one of the better ones in the league.
Absolutely. I like that answer a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure. I think we have the potential to easily be a top 10. You mentioned Kyler Gordon, his athleticism and agility, and we nickname him Spider-Man here because he does his little Spider-Man thing in practice. He's one of my favorite players to be a breakout on the Chicago Bears. He was poised to do it last year in year 2, broke his hand week 1, blitzing Jordan Love, and that kind of set him back. You missed 5 weeks early in the year. It kind of sets you back a little bit. Took him a while. He said, I believe early mini camps, he said he was about 90%, and he came back and played last year. So that tells you he was probably at about 60 to 75% playing to end the year and still finished pretty strong. So I'm really high on Kyler Gordon. I think he can be a difference maker at the nickel position. Everybody kind of downgrades him and says, oh, he's a nickel back, but he was drafted specifically to be the nickelback. He's a stud, so I love Kyler.
The
Always great.
nickelbacks, they get a bad rap sometimes, but that's a very important position on the defense. I would argue, you need to have 3 starting corners at this point, right? That's kind of how it is. Every package is nickel package. That's kind of the way of the world now. It's not 4-3 or 3-4 anymore. You're getting 5 DBs on the field if you can. So, to have that kind of player at that spot is a tremendous thing. And it was phenomenal watching him and Trent McDuffie the cycle they came out, man, because you're just looking at 2 guys who move differently. They should not move that way, and I think it was a cool little tidbit. Kyler Gordon actually did like ballet at Washington, I think, so, that fleet of foot, it translates. It really does. And it's fun to see it in real time.
Yeah. Definitely does. And I expect them to be a lot better. I expect our entire secondary to be a lot better, just given the wide receiver group that they have to face in practice every day. You're not going to see a much better group than Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze and our guy DJ Moore. Like, that's not you're not going to see much better than that every day. So I expect Kyler Gordon to really be challenged in practice, especially in his training camp, and his development to be brought up a lot faster. And I expect them to really hit the ground running. Again, it's all about leaving camp healthy and getting out of this preseason healthy. For me, like you said, Swift, last year he hurt his hand in the first game of the year, and then he's still saying that he's just at 90% right now. And after the 5th game, he played the entire rest of the season, and people were saying, like, he's not making a lot of plays on the ball. Well, it's kind of hard to make plays on the ball when your hand is still ailing a little bit. So, but he was tight, sticky in coverage, and he made a mark for himself this last year. I think he did progress. And I just want to see him mature a little bit more this season.
Well, I think the nickel spot even takes a more of a diverse skill set to play. You got to attack the run like a linebacker. A lot of times you have more ground to cover. You don't have the sideline helping you out over there. So it's a tough position to play. And Kyler's fit in really well at it. I love his game, man.
Yeah, man. So other than quarterback, I keep asking this on every other podcast I've been on. Just other than the quarterback, we all are excited to see Caleb Williams. That's a known asset. We're expecting him to be generational. Everyone's excited to see what he's going to turn out to be once he hits the field. But other than Caleb, who else are we excited to see in this training camp? Or what matchups are you excited to see? There's so many different storylines in this year's Bears training camp, man. I think this is probably why Hard Knocks was adamant about, the Bears are going to be on Hard Knocks this year, whether you guys want it or not. Like, there are too many great storylines about this team. So what are you guys excited to see? I have quite a few things, but I'll let you guys go.
Well, I'll go first. I mean, I think the wide receivers, obviously. I mean, that's the cliche answer if it's not quarterback, right? So I'm not gonna stop with that one, right? But Rome Odunze, I mean, I'm very excited to see what he can do. I think, if you're the Bears, and I'm I live in mid-Michigan. I grew up a Lions fan, so I don't want to talk you guys up too much here. I gotta know when to stall out a bit. But you could be looking at three of the. This may sound like hyperbole, but come on, look at the Bears' wide receiver history. You've got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze. Best case scenario, you could have 3 of the greatest Bears receivers in history on the same receiving unit, which is pretty crazy. So it's fun to think about, right? Again, you guys see it precipitate on the field, but these guys have really enticing skill sets and they play off of each other really well, because DJ Moore can be that vertical threat, that rack threat. Keenan Allen is that 3-level separator, right? And then you got Rome Odunze, who I kind of thought was a little similar to Keenan Allen in some ways, with the size adjusted fluidity, right? The flexibility. So all those things were kind of coming into play with him, and then his body control and kind of focus at the catch point as well. One of the best guys in the class on that end too. So I'm very excited to see the receiving core and how that falls into play. But my wild card, my other answer that I will give, you've got 2 young defensive tackles who were rookies last year, Javon Dexter, Zach Pickens. And I think if you're the Chicago Bears defensive line, right, one of the biggest things, probably my biggest knock from this class, they did get Austin Booker in round 5, which he has upside. But I think you could have invested more in getting that day 2 edge rusher who maybe has that legit impact starter potential, right? Austin Booker needs to improve his play strength. He's definitely lighter, a lot leaner. And I don't know if he's going to be a day 1 impact, especially in run defense, but then his pass rush arsenal is a little limited because of that lacking play strength. So you don't have that edge presence opposite Montez Sweat. And Montez Sweat has come into his own. He's a phenomenal player, right? But I think in the modern NFL, interior pressure is just as important. So I'm very intrigued to see the second-year growth of Zach Pickens and Javon Dexter, because Javon Dexter had that forklift profile to him, right? That straight line power, very prevalent in his game. And then Zach Pickens, I think, was around 6'3", over 300 with 34-inch arms. So you're getting a really good physical profile to work with there, very explosive, great lateral agility as well. So the tools are there. Can they take the next step? The Bears' interior offensive line isn't great, so it's going to be a test for them, that they can win in training camp, right? I think you got Coleman Shelton at center, correct me if I'm wrong, Nate Davis, Tevin Jenkins. So, Tevin Jenkins is very good. Nate Davis, a little up and down his first year, definitely need to bounce back this year. But it'll be a good barometer for those defensive tackles, I think, to see how they do.
Yeah, 100%. I think you mentioned a couple things there, but the guy you said, Zach Pickens, man, I've talked about him a few times. For some reason, he's slept on even by Bears fans. They don't seem to be hyping him up very much. They seem to have forgot about him. I even was talking Walt was with me. I was talking to my guy Adam Mason the other day, and he was saying already it said Zach Pickens isn't going to get a second contract, and he's just a kind of a body there. And I'm like, man, people are really down on Zach Pickens. He's shown a lot of versatility at South Carolina. I think he played a little bit out of position last year. He was more of a three tech at South Carolina. He played one tech position here, and Eberflus likes that from his defensive tackles, just like he does his safeties. He wants those guys to be interchangeable. So he wants Pickens to be able to play three tech or nose, and he wants the same from Javon Dexter. That might have stunted his development a little bit in year one, but I think it raised his ceiling going forward for years 2, 3, and 4. So I'm still really high on Zach Pickens. I think he's a guy who, even though I really like Andrew Billings, I could see Zach Pickens really pushing him for playing time as the year goes on.
Yeah, it's about the trenches for me too, guys. I'm a trench guy. I was a defensive end, defensive tackle, and back in my day, I played offensive line in high school as well. So it's about the trenches for me as well, man. I want to see, is Dino Dex going to mature this year? We've seen his body physically change and him looking a lot leaner, and hopefully that translates on the field to him being a little bit quicker, man, and him still maintaining that strength, because he had a great bull rush last year, man. It's just about being consistent with the leverage and developing a counter move, man, and that get off and getting on that get off. I'm really interested in seeing what Eric Washington does with the defensive line in totality, to be honest with you, because someone has to emerge on that other side of Montez Sweat, and I think he can maybe develop one of the guys that we already have. I'm not giving up on DeMarcus Walker. I think that guy has a great work ethic, and maybe Eric Washington can unlock some of the potential that he has, and we saw back in Tennessee when he did have those 7 sacks. So maybe the guys in better position to be successful. That he had a lot of success at the defensive tackle position, so maybe get him some more opportunities there. And like you just said, Swift, we know that our guy, he was a 3 tech in college. So we want to see him there more, as opposed to being at that one that was kind of stuck him at last year too. So man, I'm really interested in seeing what this offensive line and defensive line do this year. I just want to see that offensive line mature as well, like Ian said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be a little different than you guys. I'm actually going to say I'm more interested in watching what the coaches do than the players. I've always been a guy who says it starts at the top and goes down from there. So if you're going to build a team and you're going to build a championship team, you got to have the right coaches in place first, or everything's just going to fall apart, right? So, I've been high on Eric Washington since the get-go. I'm really interested in seeing what he does with another guy who I'll be watching is Austin Booker. Right? Yes. Yeah. So he was one of my favorites coming up in the draft. We lucked out that he came out early. And he only had that 1 year. So there isn't a whole lot big sample size, right? And that's what a lot of these guys look at. It's like, oh, it's a 1-year wonder, right? So I'm not going to invest a high level pick in him. So he ends up falling in our lap. Kudos to us. Forget everyone else, right?
Yep. And I will say with Booker too, like the play strength needs to improve, but I think I had a top 100 grade on him. I think he was just inside my top 100. So to get him in round 5 is a great value. The biggest question for me was the year 1 utility against the run, right? Because of that play strength, maybe not the best edge setter, but that Senior Bowl performance, that's what I keep coming back to, man. I mean, he was hitting guys with the stab spin. He's got a power element with that length. So a lot of fun pieces to his game. You're still waiting for him to put it all together because that play strength is not quite an NFL level yet. But, 1 year wonder, right? It's easy to get hung up on. And sometimes it does matter when there's a limitation that maybe prevented them, an athletic limitation that prevented them from taking over before they were that refined. But with Austin Booker, I think he was just a late bloomer because you look at the athleticism, I don't think it's an issue. He didn't test quite as well as people expected at the combine, but on tape, explosiveness, twitch, the dude is so twitched up, for his size. It's insane. So he's got to improve the play strength, but, I agree. I'm very excited to see what he can do opposite Montez Sweat because best case scenario, you have an elite power rusher in Montez Sweat and then a guy in Booker who can play off of that with finesse a little bit more, but then also channel that power.
And even to your concerns, he's only 21 years old.
Yeah.
That's prime development time right there.
Absolutely.
So he's walking into the NFL when most people have spent that time period in college in lesser systems. So,
and he has a nice tool bag. Like Ian said, the guy comes into the league with a nice tool bag already. I've seen him use counter moves and use his length extremely well. Like a lot of players coming into the league don't know how to use their length to their advantage. This guy uses his length extremely well to get around the edge, to keep guys off of him. Even though he doesn't have that massive strength, he's able to keep guys off of him and keep those hands off him to get around the edge. And, if the Bears are able to develop him and develop that some more and, just put him in those advantageous situations and obvious pass situations, then maybe we can use him as, that extra edge rusher to, be the speed coming around the edge opposite Montez Sweat, where he's pushing it with power. And then you have our guy Dino Dex pushing the middle. We can collapse the pocket extremely well. And we already know, we saw what Dino Dex can do in the stunt game last year as well. Like he was really good stunting last year. I just went back and watched some of his tape, like the TT stunts and the TE stunts. Like he's extremely good at that. And so I'm really interested in seeing what Eric Washington does with this defensive line because I don't want to have to blitz all day, every day, guys. That's just going to create so many holes in our defense. I want these front four guys to, be able to generate enough pressure to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quick and allow that secondary to get their hands on some balls.
Yeah, because I don't want to be seen as a homer, guys. I will preface this here saying I don't see Austin Booker being a starter or even mid-range player this year. He'll contribute a sack or two here or there, but he's not going to be a big-time player this year. So,
not a big-time player, but like we said, like I just said, you never know what you're going to get. We had a guy named Mark Anderson back in 2005, who was a rookie that no one knew about. Was he a fifth-round pick? I can't remember what round.
Fifth-round pick, yeah.
Yep, fifth-round pick as well. And Mark Anderson was a pure speed rusher who knew how to use his length. And that guy ended up with, 10 or 12 sacks? Was it 10 or 12? Can't remember.
It was 11 or 12 his rookie season. And then Lovey
as a rookie.
Out of position. Yeah.
Then Lovey makes him a starter. And, he couldn't hold up against the run. And teams just started beating up on him and beating him down, wearing him down in games. So, if we can get this guy in obvious pass rush situations and for him to utilize his speed and athleticism, then that's what you do. Let's put players in position to be successful.
I didn't know it muted our mic when it did this. I have a couple clips from Senior Bowl of them.
Let it ride.
Yeah. There we go. All right, it's not muting us now. There we go.
Okay, good.
The spin move.
Yeah, because I was gonna.
Sick.
Hold on. This one right here though.
You see him. The fun part with this is that he presses upfield, the apex track, right? So bait that tackle into opening his hips, and then just get inside. And you see execution, positioning, lateral agility, but then also the hand. I think he got the ice pick in there too to seal that rush. So you have nuance, you have athleticism, you have bend. You just need more play strength, right? Which that's something that you got to build up. It's not going to happen in a day. So odds are it's going to take most of the year to build that up and even in the next offseason, right? But I think in the meantime, right, we see in the modern NFL, and the Lions are a good example of this where they had James Houston, who was, I think, a late round pick When he was a rookie, he got like 8 sacks or something because they used him as that designated pass rusher, right? I think Austin Booker could be a guy that you get out there on third downs, right? And just let him pin his ears back, let him work off stunts because he's got the lateral agility and the spatial awareness to do that. And you let him feast in those situational moments, right? Don't force him to be a run defender when he's not going to be good at that right now, just because he doesn't hold up. But you see right here that power as a pass rusher when he's able to pin back and go forward, that is there too. Leveraging his base, getting that full extension in the inside shoulder. That's picture perfect right there, that long arm. And it's uncanny because he doesn't have the mass that would lead you to expect that, but it's the proper execution, the functional power through application that's just as important. And he has that in his toolbox too. So things to take solace in, silver lining, what have you, any term you want to use, those are there with him for sure.
Hey, my reaction to Ian saying that.
When you see all the things that come.
Absolutely. You see a big guy like that can play with leverage and speed and use his length, man. We don't know what we're going to get out of this guy, man, this year. So I'm not going to pigeonhole him and say he's not going to be really good, man, and he can't be that guy, man. I can see him getting 5+ sacks this year, if everything plays out well.
Okay. And then, all right, Ian. So now, what's your thoughts on the NFC North this year? Because you're a Lions guy. Let's keep the homerism out of it. No, I know you do. How do you see the NFC North playing out in your eyes, setting here early in training camp? Obviously, it's still early. A lot can still happen over preseason and camp, but just an early look at it. What's your take?
Early take is I see 3 teams that'll be in the playoff race. The Vikings, I like some elements of what they had to offer, but I think the Vikings are going to be the odd team out this year. I think JJ McCarthy is a rookie QB. He's probably not even going to hit the field right away. It'll probably be Sam Darnold, right? And Darnold in that supporting structure can be solid, but again, I'm not expecting a playoff team potentially. I think on defense, you still have a couple more holes that you need to fill. The interior defensive line isn't great. They did add a few edge guys, Jonathan Greenard in free agency. So they got him. They got a couple linebackers, right? The corner room, unfortunately, Kyrie Jackson passed away with that tragic car accident. There was a drunk driver, I think, that caused it. So, just tough, man. You can never expect that, unfortunately. And so, thoughts and prayers to him. But, that DB room has some talent for sure, but I don't see a roster quite as strong as some of these other 3 teams. And then you got the rookie QB on top of that. I expect them to be maybe 6-11, 7-10, because Kevin O'Connell's a good coach. He'll keep them competitive, right? Yep. But I think they have a tune-up year ahead of them right now. So I see the Bears, the Lions, and the Packers as those 3 teams that are really going to be in that conversation. And the Packers are scary because Jordan Love, man, he could be a top 10, top 5 QB by this time next offseason. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, the talent is there, the raw talent. He was really coming into his own in the playoffs. You got the athleticism, the off-platform ability, and he's combining it now with really good high-level execution too. Anticipation, control. This guy has the talent to be one of those QBs who can put a stranglehold on a division. So that's where, but the thing is too, Caleb Williams has that talent as well. So, you've got a couple guys with elite raw talent that are really coming into their own and kind of getting to that peak. So I'm excited. I think Jordan Love and Caleb Williams, I think we're going to see a lot of really fun battles back and forth, right? And then you have the Lions, who I think have the offensive line. Obviously, that stayed intact. They have the weapons core. They got Ben Johnson back. The offense should still be humming along pretty well. The defense, I think, will be good. Will it be elite? I'm not so sure. I think they could have used another edge rusher opposite Aiden Hutchinson. I think they do have a good interior. They got DJ Reader as that nose tackle with Aleem McNeil, and they got Mekhi Wingo late in the draft, one of my favorite picks. They got Terrion Arnold as well. So I think they'll be good on defense. But I think for me personally, the thing with the Lions is Jared Goff is a good QB. He's a top 12, top 14 QB in the proper supporting structure. But when I look at him, when I juxtapose him with Caleb Williams and Jordan Love, guys who can do extra things, guys who can do more when there's more pressure on them in off script, heat of the moment situations, I don't know. I think that might be the deal breaker in a few of those situations. So, I look at I think all those 3 teams, I think all 3 have playoff aspirations. I think all 3 can make the playoffs. I would lean, if I had to pick a winner of the NFC North, I would lean the Packers very slightly. I think they have the defensive line. They got Kenny Clark coming back, Devontae Wyatt, Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness in year 2 should be a little bit better. I think the linebacking core is a little bit suspect with them, but again, I think they can play off of that front. And then in the draft, they did get Javon Bullard, who I think can be a very good strong safety with Xavier McKinney. They got Carrington Valentine at corner, who was a top 75 player for me last year, and he played very well as a 7th rounder. So I think they have the talent for sure. And then on offense, you've got Jordan Love. You've got a really young ascending receiving trio. You've got a pretty good offensive line with a ton of versatility to it as well. I think it'll be the Packers very slightly. Just I like what Jordan Love is bringing a little bit more. Caleb Williams, I have a lot of confidence in, but he's a rookie, right? So there might be some rookie lumps. I would probably have it number 1, Packers. And then I'm almost tied Lions and Bears, man. I think that I like both of these teams. I'll lean defense. I'll lean in favor of the Bears. And then offense, to be honest with you, shoot, man. It's tough because I like the Bears receiving trio a little bit better, right? I like the Lions offensive line a little bit better. I like the Lions coaching just because the stability of it. I think Shane Waldron, a lot to be excited about with him coming over from Seattle, but Ben Johnson has another year with these pieces, right? He's going to pull off some mad genius type stuff, right? You know, I think it's just going to happen. There's going to be more. And then Jared Goff has a little bit more stability. So my gut feeling, I'll go 2A, 2B. 2A, Lions, 2B, Bears, just because Caleb Williams might need some more time to get his feet under him. But I could see this being like 13-4, Packers, 12-5, Lions, and 11-6, Bears. I could see all three making the playoffs. I could see this being the division that teams are trying to emulate. So very excited to see what happens, right? That's not the homerism, I promise. That's just me, trying to look at every possible angle, man. But baseline, bottom line, I think this division more than most is going to be must watch.
No, man, that's killer. I think you nailed it on the head there. I might actually even be a little higher on Detroit than you. I'm right there. I think those 3 teams are right in the mix. Like you, I think Jared Goff, I labeled him kind of as a quarterback you can win with. If, like you said, if he's in the right supporting structure, you have the right team around him. He's not a quarterback you win because of that's going to go anywhere and win games and is special. So because of that, I always downgrade the Lions a little bit, but the talent around Jared Goff right now, I would say, is the best in the division. He has the best offensive line. I don't think they have the someone asked in the chat too, we'll discuss that in a minute, but the Lions receiving room, other than Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's an absolute stud, and I do think Jameson Williams has a lot of talent, but they're a little thinner there than the Bears for sure. Mm-hmm. But the defense, again, that defensive line, ton of talent in the secondary. So they have talent all over the place. And the running back room is where when you have Jahmyr Gibbs, who's just a weapon, and then David Montgomery, who Bears fans, we all know Monty can get you those short yardage and break tackles. And he has a little bit of burst to his game too. So it's a really good team. I'm not as high on Jordan Love, I think. I need to see it another season for Jordan Love. Yeah. Part of it with me is Matt LaFleur is such a great play caller. I think I'm still lenient on, well, one, I hate the Packers. I mean, that could be part of it. There could be some bias here. But I do think Matt LaFleur is able to disguise some of his weaknesses. So I need to see another year in the NFL and see how defensive coordinators react to that and match up in the chess game. Can we take away what LaFleur was able to do last year? And if they can do that and maybe expose Jordan Love a little bit, I would rank it as Lions 1A to probably win the division, just because Goff, while he doesn't have the upside of Love and Caleb Williams down the stretch, I think right now Goff is probably playing his best football in the NFL.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So he can have for another year or two. I think at least this year, the Lions are the favorite for me. And then I would say for me, the Bears and Packers are right there, like neck and neck. And it comes down to how Jordan Love plays this year and how long it takes Caleb Williams to get acclimated to the NFL. So that's where I'm at with that. Yeah. But we're pretty close.
That's going to be the biggest thing is like, how long does it take Caleb Williams? Because we always see rookies needing that acclimation period, but he has pretty much everything he needs in Chicago, right? So I don't know how long it's going to take. They've already named him the starter, so it's not like we're waiting in suspense. We know he's going to be playing. So, I think that could speed it up. It could add a few hitches, right? But Caleb was a phenomenal quarterback prospect, one of the highest that I've ever graded. So I don't have a ton of reservations. But, when you talk about, all right, when is he going to be good? in that, like, when is he going to be ready to compete in the NFC North? That might be a slightly different question. So a lot to look for. The Lions, it's fun too because Jared Goff has everything he needs to be hit the best version of himself, which is a great point that you made. I mean, besides, not even Jahmyr Gibbs, which, Gibbs was a guy who, when he was a prospect coming out, he wasn't just an electric runner. He could run routes. I mean, he could go out in the slot, right? So now that they've got that year under the belt, I'm really hoping that they utilize him in different ways. I hope they expand that palette. And I think that they can do that. And they got Sam Laporta too, who I forgot to mention, but he's a phenomenal player too. So,
that's where I was going to say. You guys are forgetting about Sam Laporta. You're talking about the Lions lacking wide receiver weapons, but Sam Laporta is a weapon. Dude.
Yeah, he's a weapon.
He is an absolute. He's a top 5 tight end already in this league, and
when you include him with the wide receivers,
and Jahmyr Gibbs is like he just said. Like Jahmyr Gibbs can also be a weapon in the passing game. I think they didn't utilize them as much as they could, as they will this year. I think Ben Johnson has a lot to work with. I think that's why he decided to stay. You have everything built in the trenches on both sides. I know that they don't have that great pass rusher on the opposite of I'm getting Aiden Hutchinson right now, but those guys generate a lot of pressure, dude. With Reader up the middle and Hutchinson on the end, those guys are pretty good on the defensive line. And I love Terry and Arnold. I love that pickup. He was probably my favorite corner in the draft outside of Quinion Mitchell. And that's a guy that can play inside and outside. So I like what they did on the defense, man. And what they have in the trenches make me feel like, they're the team to beat in this division. And as far as the Packers go, man, you can't say anything bad about those guys because they have great coaching and continuity. And, and a guy in Jordan Love who's just blooming right now. That guy is playing pretty well towards the end of the year, and he's only going to get better. I'm looking at videos of him and that footwork, and, he looks like he's ready to take the next step this upcoming year. And the competent coaching, like you say, LaFleur went and got Josh Jacobs. That team is going to be tough to beat as well. The Bears, we know what we have. We don't have that continuity. We have to hope that, Shane Waldron is able to get this thing up going pretty quickly. The beauty of the Bears, though, is we don't have a division game for the first 10 weeks. That's the beauty of the schedule. The schedule was completely so generous to the Bears to be able to compete for this division because we have that grace. We have that grace period to, hit the ground running. And I'm just hoping that Shane Waldron doesn't place our receivers XYZ. We have Rome at the X, we have DJ Moore at the Z, and then we have Keenan Allen in the slot. Mix it up a little bit, man. And that's where I think where we can really challenge teams this year, man. If the Bears decide to mix it up and create those mismatches, and we also have our great tight ends, man, we have so much to work with that's going to make things easier on our offensive line that we don't know really what we have. The ball is going to come out a little bit quicker. We have a great running back in Swift right now. I think, the Bears are going to challenge some teams this year. It's just about how soon Caleb's going to figure out this NFL game. The Vikings, again, competent coaching is going to make them a competitive team, but where they lack a lot of talent on their team, but they have competent coaching in O'Connell and Flores, man. That defense is definitely going to challenge some teams. I hate seeing them every year just because of the way that Flores dials up all these exotic blitzes and everything. So that's not a team I'm just going to write off. You're going to have to beat that team. That's not a team that you're just going to walk over. So I think we're the most competitive division in the NFL, to be honest with you, man. I know people are high on the AFC North, but the NFC North is nothing to play with.
Hey, if the Vikings still had Kirk Cousins, I would agree with that sentiment all the way. I would say the AFC North is right there, depending on how the Steelers quarterback situation plays out, and really if Deshaun Watson bounces back. But we did have a question for Ian here. Kay wants to know, what is your opinion of the Lions wide receiver room? I think we kind of addressed it a little bit, and they have other weapons on offense with Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta and everything. But what is your overall take on their wide receiver room as a whole?
Yeah, for sure. And I gotta look up the depth chart to remember who their their 4 deep, 5 deep, 6 deep receiver room is. I know they got Antoine Green from North Carolina, if I remember correctly, in the late rounds. Maybe that was last year, so 2 drafts ago. Which he's more of a depth guy, right? So
They
the
got
question is,
Donovan Peoples-Jones.
yeah,
Khalif
they did
Raymond.
get him. Yeah, and Khalif Raymond is I went to fun story. I went to, well, not really a fun story, but it's a story, I guess. I went to training camp for the Lions last summer, and I got to see Khalif Raymond in person. That dude is just, it just goes to show all of these NFL players are different, man. But he looked like he had jet turbines on his feet. Like he was moving at a different level, man. So Khalif Raymond, I have a lot of respect for his game. He's been a phenomenal returner. That's kind of how he carved out his path at the NFL level. And he's become a solid rotational guy. But, if we're talking about the Lions receiving room as a whole, just looking at it right now, it's tough because my philosophy is thinking about receivers. I always want to have 4 or 5 guys. If you can have 5 guys, that's the dream. If you can have 4, that's good enough, right? Have 3 guys that you can go to on any given down, someone that you can rotate in, right? If I were compiling a receiving room, I would want versatility, alignment versatility, right? But then also multi-functionality. So guys who can play off motion, right? Like the Bears receiving room, like what you see off that. Roman Dunze can play off motion. He can play in the slot on the boundary. I would want a lot of interchangeable pieces that I can rely on, right? And I look at the Lions receiving room. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, is one of those guys who has that all-around utility, but then you can go to him at the catch point, right? He's super clutch, in high-level moments too. So he is a guy. He is a dude for sure. Jameson Williams, I like his fit in the Lions receiving room. I don't think he's that elite level player that we were hoping he would become yet. And part of that is because of the injury. It's stunted his development a little bit. But I do think for what Ben Johnson does, I think Jameson Williams is perfect because he can be a decoy as well with that speed.
Mm-hmm.
We can stretch the defense thin. You can create space for other guys, but then also generate big plays on his own. So I liken Jameson Williams. I think in most offenses, he would be a solid receiver 3-4, right? A guy that you're going to rotate in a little bit, but even when he's not getting the ball, he has an impact with just the sheer speed that he has. He's going to draw the defense's attention and he's going to stretch them thin. And I think that in and of itself is a good effect for him. But then you asked about the receiving core as a whole. I do think the depth definitely falls off after that. Khalif Raymond, as much as I like the guy, as much as I'll, go to bat for him, probably a receiver 4 or 5, a rotational guy at best, right? I think a good route runner, good in the slot, but naturally a little undersized, a little limited. Peoples-Jones is good for, a couple of big plays every 10 weeks or so, right? But, I think for me so far, watching him in Cleveland and in Detroit, consistency with his hands has been a big issue. Still not a refined route runner either. So, once you get to Peoples-Jones and Antoine Green, you're getting into really traits-rich guys that haven't really delivered on it. So I think if you're the Lions, they've got Jahmyr Gibbs, they've got David Montgomery, they've got Sam Laporta. So a lot of those things make up for it, right? But if I'm looking at the receiving core, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a dude. Who do we have after that? Jameson Williams is a great presence. Is he a great receiver? I don't think he is yet. I think he can get there, but there's still room to do. And then Khalif Raymond is a solid rotational guy, but that's where it stops for me. I think that they're definitely a little thinner. And so when I'm talking about the reservations in comparison to other NFC North teams, that's where it comes from because the Bears have a legit elite trio, right? Even the Vikings have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. The Packers are one of those teams that have 5 guys. Like they don't have an elite guy, but they have 5 guys that they can go to. And we've seen what that can do for them. So I think the Lions, Amon-Ra is one of the best in the division, but outside of that, a lot of uncertainty. But that said, I do think Jameson Williams, even though he's not elite, does have utility with that presence. So I'd rank them 3rd or 4th in the division with receivers. They make up for it elsewhere, but it is something to take note of, I think, for them.
Then you guys lost a guy in Josh Reynolds last year, who I thought was a pretty solid receiver to me.
Dependable third down option.
Dependable guy, except for in the playoffs. I think he drops a crucial ball in the playoffs. Just a couple there. But and he had chemistry with Jared Goff going back to the Rams days too. So that that was a tough loss as well. And I think that chipped away at the depth a little bit more. So with the Lions, I think you have a very top heavy receiving room. But other areas, they compensate for that. But then, at a certain point, you wonder, is it going to get exposed when teams force them to get in these 3 receiver sets? Is that going to get exposed? We'll see. Yep. So get a lead on the Lions, and you have a great chance of winning that game.
Exactly.
That's probably the X factor of the year. Can we have Detroit's number again like we did last year?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We only won one of the 2 games, but Ian, as Bears fans, we say we owned you guys because we beat you for 1 game and then 3.5 quarters of the other game. I mean,
you take what you can get. I get it. I understand it. I'll let you.
He gets it. See, he knows. You guys have any other questions for Ian?
Man, that's the league. Let's just talk about the league real quick, man. Can Kansas City three-peat? What do you think those chances are of Kansas City pulling a three-peat?
Man, when Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are in the same room, anything is possible. I mean, I'll just say that. I mean, that's my really simple analysis. I could go in depth with like the roster and everything. And the offensive line is still great. The wide receiver room, again, I have questions, but again, it's Andy Reid, it's Patrick Mahomes. They're gonna find a way to make it work. If they made last year's work, they can make anything work. I mean, come on, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, like. Rashee Rice was their best receiver, and they basically had to scheme him touches every game. He's still not that refined route runner. They're pretty much scheming him rack plays, but he's so good at it, right? Now they've got Marquise Hollywood Brown to stretch the field and create space for him. So I don't see things being worse from a roster standpoint than they were last year, which is scary because they won the Super Bowl. So
and they got Worthy too, right?
Yeah, they got Worthy in the draft. Who forget the 4.21. Yeah, I can't believe that went over my head, man. Yeah. But 4.21 speed. Forget the speed. He's an elite route runner too. Exactly. Like he's legit a guy that you can put in day one. He can have that utility. So Travis Kelce is getting older. I think that's the biggest question mark for me because when he's on the field, he is such an X factor. You wonder when they're going to lose that, and he's not going to be that anymore. But even when that does happen, I still think Reed's going to have an answer. I think it's going to, for me personally, the defense looks good still. I think losing L'Jarius Sneed could hurt, but they do have a few young corners who are rising up. Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson. They're long physical guys who could thrive in that Steve Spagnuolo defense. So, and they got Trent McDuffie in the slot. We were talking about slot corners earlier. That's an elite nickel corner. That's one of the best in the game right there. So, I think the Chiefs have everything they need. I think they can do it. Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid. I think it's up to someone to stop them. I think it's up to someone to say, hey, we're going to stop you, right? So who will be that team? We don't know. A three-peat, I can't remember the last time a three-peat has happened. If it's ever happened, I don't think it has. But
it hasn't. It hasn't. I thought the Patriots did it back in the day, but then I heard someone say that it never happened. I look it up. I'm like, dang, it never happened. It got 2 out of the 3. They went 3 times, but they lost. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it would be history for sure. I think they can. I think they're a threat. But there are teams rising in the AFC and the NFC. So I'm hoping someone can put a stop to it for sure.
I'm tired of dynasties unless
so tired of it.
Brady, we just got over the Brady one. I'm not. I don't want any. I didn't want them to win last year. I got a question for you. Have you checked out the new Hard Knocks, the New York Giants one?
Ooh, I have not. No, I've only seen.
As a draft guy, I think you will love it. It is
okay.
I've never been a big Hard Knocks fan. I got it early because the Bears one is starting next month, but this one goes behind the scenes and what they look for in the draft room. Some conversations about free agency that you'd never get to hear, like other than this show. I think it's by far the best Hard Knocks and worth watching for sure.
Okay.
Well, you got anything else?
Joe Sheehan doesn't think so. It's making Joe Sheehan look pretty bad right now. Like his predictions have been, he's been way off every time. Like, Joe, like
I don't want to ruin it too much, but yeah, he's made some bad calls.
I did
really
see the clip. I did see the clip where they were talking about Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley and that decision. And which, by the way, my team building philosophy is you get a QB. If you get a QB worth paying, you pay him. That's a whole different conversation as to whether Daniel Jones was worth that. Spoiler alert, probably wasn't. But then he goes and says like, hey, we paid him $40 million. So, just because you made one move that turned out to be a wrong move doesn't mean you double down on it, honestly.
Yep. Which let it snowball.
That's the tough part is that they've kind of and I don't want to go on a whole Giants spiel and use up any more time more than you guys want, but like Daniel Jones shoot, I completely lost my train of thought there. Shoot, oh my god, man. Sometimes that happens. I'm trying.
does,
Okay,
it does.
I'll
No,
try and
I'm
remember it. I'll
Talking
try.
about compiling the mistakes. That's what you were talking about.
Yeah. I
Snowball.
will
You
say
know.
they tried to get a quarterback. It showed them talking to the Patriots GM, and they let the Patriots know, like, if there's any way you move out of number 3, you call us first.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
That was interesting.
Oh, I remembered it. Okay, so it's pretty simple. I don't know why I forgot it all of a sudden, but Joe Shane and Brian Dable are pretty much married to Daniel Jones. I think, what happens to them is wholly dependent on that because you paid him so much, and that's the danger of paying a QB so much money. Is once you do that, it has to work out for you. There aren't a ton of examples where it doesn't. And when there are examples, they have a transition plan in place. The Eagles with Carson Wentz, they drafted Jalen Hurts round 2, right? So that would have been a disaster, but they were prepared for it. The Giants, they're not very prepared right now. And I'm curious to see what happens for them.
It's not looking good, man. And the owner was not happy about Saquon going to the Eagles. He was like, I would hate for him to end up on the Eagles. And where's he end up?
Well, I mean, you could say that's his own damn fault too.
Yeah.
100%. Well, hey, Ian, man, it was a pleasure having you, man. Always love talking NFL draft. It's never too early to look forward to next year's draft. I definitely want to check out that. Is it an article coming out, a full 7-round mock draft? You said.
Yeah, so it's a full 7-rounder. I'm submitting it to the editing team tomorrow morning, and it should be out on the weekend. So full 7 rounds. You got a ton of picks in there, and the Bears have the extra 2nd-rounder as well. So some exciting things to happen with the capital that they have. But it's the first one. Always a very painstaking process. I spend 2 days on the selections alone, just trying to make sure, because you got to factor in team fits, free agency, stuff like that too, and picks they've already made. So it's a lot, but it's fun. It's great to get an early look at the class, and I think this one in particular will kind of showcase the depth at certain talent, certain positions, but then also the talent up top, because the Bears getting a blue chip edge guy in round 1, so it's gonna be fun. But that'll be out this weekend, I think.
Definitely looking forward to seeing that.
100%, man. I can't wait. I'm definitely gonna be checking that out. We appreciate you coming on. Anytime you want to join us, man, hit me up or hit Will up, and we'll have you on and talk more football. But go Bears! We're not rooting for the Lions this year.
Hey, you guys were generous enough, gracious enough to have me on, so I'll throw in a go Bears there too, man. Just as an impartial NFL draft and analyst, I'm very excited to see what that team can do. A lot of talent on that roster on both sides of the ball, and I think they're coming in their own. They got the coaching to take the next step, and a lot of it is dependent on Caleb Williams and how much he can do as a rookie. But all the pieces are there for him to kind of catalyze his growth, and good things can happen. I think things are looking up for a Bears fan base. That, hey, as a Lions fan, right? We went through the 0-16 2008 season. We've had some low lows. I think both of our fan bases have. So from one struggling fan base to another, I'm happy that things are looking up.
And for the sake of not having you be wrong, but just for the sake of both of our fan bases, we do not want Jordan Love to be elite. I'm saying that for all Bears fans. We do not want that at all.
Lions fans don't want it either, man. I think we're all just kind of holding on, hoping it doesn't happen.
Oh,
like
man.
the worst thing that could happen, right?
Yep. Hey, thanks to everybody out there watching. Bear down, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bear down. Thanks again, Ian.
Yeah.